Let's press rewind and come to this day when Andre 3K said the South got something to say. Now press fast forward. He just released the album where he ain't say nothing at all. Just displaying his truth. No bars, no lyrics. Just him playing the flute. Although this against the norm, he says at 48, rapping feels inauthentic form. Some fans ain't agree, they stated. But he dropped music a few years back and ain't appreciated the transparency. He made a song about his parents and y'all overlooked it apparently. So he switched it up from going lyrically and said, bet, say no more, literally. See, I ain't complaining. The industry needs this level of peace and meditation. The truth is revealing. We need less shooting and killing, more soothing and healing. In the era where glorified drink no lean got people in the chokehold, Draymond Green. I mean, there's nothing wrong with hill music. Everything ain't gonna be trap or drill music. We got enough, spin the block. Two ops, this album could've had more flutes than the Boondocks, and I'll play it loud proud. I'd rather flutes from Outkast than to hear these rappers that's out now. That's what makes the greats. Every artist deserves the rights to creative space. Just stating the truth. Nobody criticized Lizzo for playing the flute. To limit one's talent is just superficial. No different from telling LeBron to shut up and dribble. But in this case, it's worse, literally, with this demonic industry. Remember the Grammys? Straight disgusting. Sometimes saying nothing is saying something. Computed emotions in the game now. I take AI before AI. Nah, it's ridiculous. Dr. Umar voice. You don't find this suspicious? They rather the loudness and boasting. They don't understand that silence is golden. Yes, youngin'. It's a known fact. A wise man once said nothing.
"30 minutes from Kansas City is Lenexa, home to one of several underground facilities used within the state of Kansas for business and storage purposes. To access the American Indian Records Repository, you drive into a hill.
Our job function here is to receive and store the Native American records from across the United States, all the federal records, and then also some of the tribal trust records we have here that we store. Back in the 70s, these were some old limestone mines, and they mined them, but they mined them in a way that they could be able to use them for storage or for office space. Through the years of the litigation and even today, there was a need to be able to centrally locate all of the Indian fiduciary trust records to be able to support the research efforts for the litigation. And our records were spread throughout the nation in the FRCs, where the local offices would retire their records to the nearest FRC near them. So it was decided by the Office of the Secretary to build this facility in a central location and be able to have one location for all of the Indian fiduciary trust records to be located. And so in 2003, NARA and the Department of Interior met and came up with the idea to build this facility here underground alongside with the other NARA storage centers where they store other records. NARA is National Archives Records Administration, and the FRC, I'm sorry, the acronyms,
No problem,
is a Federal Records Center.
The litigation TAP references is Cobell v. Salazar, one of the largest class action lawsuits in American Indian history regarding the mismanagement of thousands of individual Indian money accounts. The facility is generally closed to the public, but individuals can gain access by going through the proper channels. I know you don't allow a lot of crowds in here, but how can a person get a tour of this facility?
What they would need to do is contact the director of the Office of Trust Records and give the names of the individuals and the dates in which they would like to come here for a tour. and then the director would decide whether or not to grant authorization. Once she grants authorization, she lets me know so that I can inform our guard, and then the guard actually would allow them to come in, but they would be escorted for a tour. First thing we do is we show them a video of how to properly handle our records. And then also they sign a research agreement. And that agreement is basically listing out the procedures that they need to follow. Some of the, also near the records, when they're around the records, there's no drinks, there is no tobacco of any type, there is no chewing gum, no hand lotion, so there's nothing around the records that could harm them. No pens, no highlighters, no markers can be allowed. We store here the records from the Bureau of Indian Education and their functions, the Office of Special Trustee, of course, for American Indians. Also, we have Indian Education records, Office of Judicial Services records, which are law enforcement that are out on the Indian reservations. And we also store here records for the Secretary, the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, and also the trust-related records for our solicitors' offices. Those types of records could be financial, of course, education, high school transcripts, marriage certificates, death certificates, all the types of personal information of people who have been enrolled. This is just an old ledger that records some of the older transactions and investments made, but you can see how brittle it is and due to its age. So these looks like these are investments. The records here are maintained in archival standards, and the temperature is at 60 degrees. The humidity is controlled to protect them. Also, the air is filtered several times a day. You know, we are underground, so we're safe away from any type of natural disaster or tornado won't affect us down here. If someone wanted to get a copy of maybe their great-grandmother's marriage license or some death certificate or something to try to trace back their history, what they would do is they would go to their nearest Bureau of Indian Affairs office and do a research request, and that would be sent to us, and I have a staff here that actually does research, and we would do the research, see if we could find the information, and then we would release that information back to the BIA. We only release the information back to the owners of the records. We don't release it to the public. If someone wanted to do that without going through the BIA, then they would have to send us a Freedom of Information request.
Depending on the employee's workload, responses to requests usually happen within 48 hours, but no more than 5 days after they are received.
This area here is the space where the boxes are actually, the information is being taken out of the box, off of the files, and actually entered into a database, so that in the future we would be able to retrieve, for research purposes, we would be able to know where to go to look for the documents that are being requested. All of our boxes, when they get here, have a barcode put on them and are scanned to a physical location, so that at any given time we know where a box resides. So I always tell the staff, our rule is within 5 minutes we locate a box. This is the dock, and this is where all the boxes are actually received from the field. And also this is where the boxes, well, when they come in from the field, they come in here and they're put on these stacks over here, is what we call the stacks, to be weighted, to be indexed. We did have about a couple months ago, a couple of tribal guys come in and do some research, and they were surprised that there's not more tribes that actually come in for research. It's a facility to be able to preserve the history. You know, I heard one person say before, we're building a legacy. We have the records here that have shown, they show for future generations, they will be here to show the workings of the federal government as far as what was being done for Native Americans. We preserve the past and educate the future.
Secret. And I asked him, what secret is he talking about? He said, yes, America is Egypt. He was like, that's what the Seminole War was about, the Louisiana Purchase was about. And he was like, look up this map. It's called Tamari. And he said, y'all, it's Tamarikans. So I went to look up at the map, right? And I was amazed he was right. He was like, that's y'all true nationality. And he was like, when the Seminole War broke out, that's when they won and they took over America and started calling them Americans, and they spelt it different. And the Bible is based upon y'all. All pastors know this, Freemasonry know this, everybody know this.
Pyramid on the Nile in Northeast Africa doesn't have stair steps going up it. It doesn't have temples on top of its summits. They could not go and break through the boat on the temples atop those great pyramids. There are none there. And that was the clue that Egypt was writing about the Americas. And the deeper I got into the records, the clearer it got. They started actually saying, and because Amun loved that land so much, he said it's his beloved land, and that word was Mary, the beloved. Mary, M-E-R-I, Mary. And the land, of course, as before, is Ta, the beloved land, Tamari. And they kept that name and just put the Ta on the end of it. So Tamari became a Mary Ta. We simply say America. We kept the name that Egypt gave to the Americas. So that was the big mystery behind that $10 million map that Martin Waldseemüller made, and then put the name America on it in 1507. And then those who knew and those who were trying to hide things said, wait a minute, you can't put that name on here. And the next time he reprinted that map, it was off, it was gone, because that's the name that Egypt had given the land.
Now you know your name.
We have particles coming from the sun, which are moving home. That means they are charged to return, so they are all returning to the source. And we have particles which are actually reducing to become gross, like physical. You see, some are going home and some are entering into the worldly manifestation. When you are developing spiritually, then the particles which are also going home are attracted to you. So your body will be transformed. Your body is transforming because the energies which are heading home, the particles which are heading home, they also, birds of the same feather flock together. They also come to hook on you, and in fact, you become so content. You don't even need food and other things from the worldly platform. All these things are going home, and they are going with you. They resonate with you, and it's amazing. You see the sun there. It is sending such kind of frequencies which are heading home.
We didn't know anything about black folks because we never really saw them.
You just did not go to Forsyth County.
In my mind, the black people lived somewhere else. I thought it was that way everywhere.
People of color crossed the county line at risk of their lives. And I remember being in the back of a pickup truck in my baseball uniform And walking along behind us, the next group in the parade were Klansmen in white hoods and robes, you know, waving to the crowd. You know, Forsyth County wasn't a place where people had to hide that sort of thing.
In the Jim Crow era, Forsyth County, Georgia was a sundown county, a whites-only zone where it was either illegal or unsafe for black people to be there after dark. There were towns like this all across America at the time. But what made Forsyth unique is that it stayed that way for 70 years, well into the 1980s.
One of the frequent questions I got was, you know, why in the world did your family move there? I think one obvious answer is white people in America don't have to know a whole lot about a place that they move to. You know, the risk, the peril, and threat of physical violence in this community was directed at people of color. So it wasn't really directed at us.
Patrick Phillips.
The female is advanced technology, and they're competing with the shit between your legs, woman. It's time we wake the fuck up, and we gotta do it quick, y'all. You think I'm going live with this much passion for nothing? I'm tired of what I see. It's time for it to change. It's time for you to learn to think deep. It's time for you to learn to play chess. It's time for you to work out and get your body right. It's time to become the God that you are and your own savior. It's time for you to be brave, stand up, and be mentally, physically, and spiritually fit. You're born onto a battlefield. It's time to act like a soldier. Let's keep it moving.
This is real funny on how they legit got this junk backwards. If they doing the yin and the yang, because that's what that black and that white represent, right?
Right.
If that represents the yin and yang, guess what the yin and yang represents? The yin is feminine. It represents the triple blackness of space, the triple blackness in the woman's womb that gives birth to a child, a star, a soul, a son. My son, Mason. So, the yin is supposed to be dark, and the yang is supposed to be masculine because it gives birth to that son, my son, Mason. So, literally, even that is backwards. The woman is supposed to wear black, and the man is supposed to wear white. That's the whole concept of the widow. That's why the widow wears black. So she's supposed to wear black during the marriage too. Boy.
A new discovery, which has not yet been published. It relates directly to the black communities across America. After here, I'm going to Bimini. As she said, I'm also going to speak at the Washita Conference again in Louisiana about this. Great. But before I tell you about that, people will say, well, big deal, so what? Why is history important at all? History is extremely important. Imagine if I could take from each one of you as an individual everything you knew about life to last week and just erase it. Where would you be? You'd be lost. You'd be incompetent. You wouldn't know how to plan for the future. And you do the same thing with a people. If you erase their history or you don't tell enough about their past, they also become incompetent and they can't fulfill the future. And that's why a lot of people in the black community have felt, well, how come all of the dreams of the civil rights movement aren't yet fulfilled? And one reason is because this history is still suppressed. It still isn't taught. But there's been a recent discovery which is going to blow the lid off of all that. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Now, basically, what science has now found, although this is suppressed for the most part, there have been some great researchers. You have some wonderful books here, like by Evan van Sertima, who's talking about these things. This is not taught in your public schools, although it will be. The history that the children are learning today is not going to be history that's going to be taught in the next 25 years. It's going to be radically different. We now know for a fact that long before Columbus, there were 4 major migrations of blacks to the Americas, different parts of the Americas, for totally different reasons, totally separated from each other by many centuries. But nonetheless, there were these black, you can call them migrations, but they were not in China. I'll describe it. You can make up your own mind what they were. The most recent of these took place about 400 years before Columbus was even born, and it's all outlined in a marvelous book over there It's called the Golden Trade of the Moors. And it is now known that the West African Kingdom of Mali had huge fleets of merchant vessels, and that these kings, these black kings of West Africa, began sailing across the Atlantic to Mexico as early as 900 AD. Now, why did they do that? They did that for trade, not for conquest or invasion. They did this for trade. Mali was very wealthy in gold. They had lots of minerals. Some of the black kingdoms, they were called the Yoruba or the Benin. They were great workers in bronze. But the trouble with West Africa, and it's still a trouble today, not enough food, famine. Somehow, the black kings of Mali had preserved this tradition long before, where there was this kingdom across the sea, a totally different one. It was very hard to reach. You needed to have excellent ships and good sailors, and nobody in Europe was doing it at this time. But if you cross that sea, this other kingdom across the Atlantic was very rich in a certain kind of food, which the people over there called maize. We now call corn. And these West African kings launched at least 2 major fleet trading ventures that went across the Atlantic 900 AD to about 1600 AD. And they brought over their bronze work, and they taught the Mexican people, the ancient Mexican people, who were then known as the Mayas. The Mayas had built up a great kingdom of their own, but at 900 AD they were in decline. They were really on the outs. Nobody knows exactly why, but their society was in decline. They were losing all of their technology. Then these black fleets came across from West Africa, from Mali, and they presented a lot of gold work, bronze work, and in return, they came back with shiploads of corn, maize. Now, we know for sure that this actually happened because very recently, you'll see in the next issue of our magazine, not this issue, the next issue is coming out in about 2 weeks. This is part of it. The discoveries are happening so fast and furious, it's hard to keep track. They now have found that a certain type of maize or corn, which is growing in West Africa, has been growing there for many centuries, is not native to West Africa. It is a type of corn which comes from Mexico, could have only been brought over by these Mali seafarers over 1,000 years ago. So this is a first concrete proof that they beat Columbus by centuries, and we're not just on a voyage of exploration. They were going back and forth, bringing corn back. Now, why do we know about that? Well, this trade stopped abruptly 1600 AD. 1600 AD, the Spanish, the Portuguese run a real aggressive colonizing campaign, and they took over Africa, and they destroyed a lot of these kingdoms. And with the destruction of these kingdoms went all the knowledge and all the history of these past trades. This is a tremendous lesson for us because, you know, we're so proud of our American civilization. We think it'll go on forever. But when a civilization falls, history tells us it takes almost all memory of it with it. Civilization is really very fragile. And that's why these lessons from the past are very, very important. If we want to preserve our civilization, we have to learn what happened to these others that crashed. So we know for sure between 900 and 1600 AD, long before Columbus was even born, as I say, these blacks were trading, these black kingdoms were trading with Mexico. If I have to refer to my notes, it's because this is new to me as well. There's also traditions in Mexico, ancient Mexico, of these black kings coming. And one of them was called, by the Mayas, if I pronounce this right, Ecchua, which means the black calabash or the black gourd. It referred not only to his black skin color, but also this gourd that he brought over. This gourd has been portrayed in these Maya hieroglyphs. This guy is portrayed as a West African type of man, robes and everything. And he's holding a gourd in these glyphs. That gourd has actually been identified as a West African type of gourd. So here we're having wonderful proof that there were these contacts between Africa and Mexico. And they actually referred to him by this name. And it shows that the Mayas and these Mali civilizers, these Mali traders, got along really well. It wasn't a conquest. It wasn't one society taking over another. They both had things to offer each other. The Africans had to offer metallurgy and gold, and the Mayas had to offer corn.
Jamaica, which means land of food and water, not Jamaica. Did you know that, right? Did you know that Jamaicans are actually settlers? Yeah, Jamaicans are settlers. Jamaican are African slave settlers. So we know who born in Jamaica. We are, you know, the kids of the African settlers in Jamaica. So the rightful owner for Jamaica, or the rightful people for Jamaica, is the Arawak Indian, and we don't talk about that shit. That's why Jamaica is so haunted, you know, because when they come and massacre all of these people in Jamaica, they put the slave to work, you know, to farm and plantation and all of that shit, right? And you see all of these nanny, the maroon and all of them shit. Maroon is fake in Jamaica. Yeah, maroon, you're gonna go back to Africa for that shit. You know, maroon is fake in Jamaica. That's why you say Andrew Holness don't want to give no rightful own to no maroon shit, and you don't respect that shit because you know that maroon don't have the right in Jamaica. You know, no maroon don't have the right in Jamaica. Do you know that? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you now. A lot of you ain't gonna lie me. I blood clot L.A. Lewis never lie me. You know, it's not over me, but I just say go L.A. Lewis. Yeah, lying to you, but I just say go me I tell you from now. Yo, black people are free. Black people have to fear Africa first. Then after they can spread over the world. But when you hear them talk about, you know, Jamaica fight the independence from, you know, from England and all of them shit. I'm telling you something, they know, so yo, Jamaica have no right, blood, Jamaica have no right. Jamaica have no right for Jamaica. And because of born today. And I said, from the get-go, you know, we are blood clean. Slave. We are slave. Jamaica's a plantation. Haiti's a plantation. Most of the small countries we're controlled by England and empires are plantation. Everybody get displaced. You understand? If you notice, African they all over the world, because back in the them days they take the African man can all over the world. But one African people sell out to people to slavery. You understand me? And they still go on now same way. You understand? So guess what now? So they go and talk, yo, Jamaica curse by the Arawak Indian blood that spill on the land of Jamaica. You understand me? That's why you suppose, you know, that's why you see part of blood clot Port Royal sink. Because of them things there. Jamaica, that's why you see so much crime in Jamaica, because the people in Jamaica torment by the Arawak Indian spirit and, you know, the senseless blood that spill at Jamaica. That's why. Well, guess what, man? The African settlers shouldn't pack up and back at Africa. They should stay at Jamaica. That's why you see how Jamaica get controlled by different people, by, you know, Chinese, the Indian, you know, white people and stuff like that. That's how it is. Did you know that? You didn't know that, but now you know. Love me or hate me. If you never liked me before, now you're not gonna like me. If you didn't like me, and you know some matter the truth, you're gonna like me even more. Did you know that? And if you never know me and you don't like me, you even know, and you just choose not to like me, just remember you never liked me from before. Did you know that? Oh my gosh, they didn't know that, but now they know. Alright, you see, life plans are ours, they didn't know that either, just like that.
God is protecting you guys. When 400 years come, it's going to take you guys back to where you guys belong.
So you are African?
Yes.
So we're not Africans over here, is what you're saying?
No, you guys are Africans too, but you're the true Hebrewites.
Okay.
Yes.
Now we ran into Africa. We ran into Africa, but we're not Africans.
Yes, you guys were put on the shores of Africa.
Right.
When these white people came, they took you guys.
How do you know that? How do you know about
that? We are taught that. History in Africa, they teach you from zero.
Wait a minute, they taught you that in Africa?
Yes. Here they don't teach you. They teach you right where they want you guys to know.
So the whole time our people over here thinking they're Africans and we're not Africans.
You are true Israelites.
Oh, okay. So y'all know that over there now?
Yes, we do. That's why you see, if I take your skull and my skull, they're different. Like we get the same skin.
Oh, okay. So you come from Ham. Who's your forefather? Ham?
Yeah.
Ham.
You guys from Judah, right?
Right, I'm from the tribe of Judah.
Yeah.
Right.
Michelangelo was told by the Pope to put the picture of the Holy Family on the roof of the chapel. Michelangelo said and the Pope specifically told him to make it European. Michelangelo explained to him that there are no models of a European Holy Family. And so he said, you'll think of something, and he did. He used his family.
We thought the only guy we had was the one that white people gave us, which was Jesus, okay? And he looked like them. And when we saw them, psychologically, we would transfer that was deity. If it really was unimportant what he looked like, then why didn't he look like some of the majority of the people on earth? Why would he look like the people who are the minority race on the entire earth? We're not the minority.
People always ask me, why do the black church not get rid of the white Jesus and put a blue black Jesus in place with a nappy head? Because black people would stop going.
And not only did they hide the color of religious figures throughout Europe, they would hide the colors of other very important people, especially royalty in Europe.
I like how the ladies that sit down there with the dudes all hyped up in the back. Hey. And everybody in the background. Bam, y'all see her in the background? Hey. Hey, I can do magic, I can do Hey.
So we're talking about skin melanin. We have more of that, protects you from the ultraviolet rays of the sun. What I'm saying is, you eat the sun. Sun shines on your skin, some cholesterol picks it up, takes it to the liver and converts it to vitamin D2. You actually eat the sun. The more sun you absorb, the more stronger your bones are. The less sun you absorb, the more weak your bones are. You got to take vitamin D if you live in this climate. You're not getting enough sun. You need vitamin D. You're not getting enough sun. You got to have at least 2 hours of sunlight to stimulate the melanin. Allows protection from extreme hot and cold temperatures. That's what melanin does. Eskimos are not white people. Eskimos are colored people. Causes you to have the least amount of hair on your body than any other race.
The chromosphere of the sun is made up primarily of hydrogen and lies separate and above the photosphere. Photo meaning the light sphere, the part that you can see. Said that to say that the so-called chromatosphere or chromosphere of the sun and the chromosomes of the cell are your inner sun. You have whole solar systems that are cells. The chromosome and the chromosphere are together and are synergistically linked through the activity of the DNA. So the sun and you are intermittently connected through the DNA. Your chromosomes and the chromosphere, hydrogen bonds in the chromosomes, hydrogen is as the majority, thousands of miles thick around the sun. You are being beamed information through the hydrogen, the chromosphere of the sun is connecting to the hydrogen coupling bonds in your DNA and giving it instructions to change. As a matter of fact, it's supposed to be giving you instructions to grow a third helix.
Melanated beings. Carbon 7. You see my video, Unified Field and Solar Ascension. If not, go see it. If you did, then you know where I'm going with this. Okay. First of all, we have to understand the science of reincarnation in the ethereal body. The reason that you cremate somebody is because upon death, the body turns back into carbon, which filters back into the atmosphere. So their physical essence goes back into the cosmos, as well as their spiritual frequency or their electronic frequency, which you are. You're just a surge of electrical consciousness, goes back into the astral plane or the solar system. So with that being said, family, we have to understand that planet Earth right now is going through a cleansing process. You are connected to the Earth through its latitude and longitude grids, through your chakras, and your emotions filter out through the atmosphere through this connection, and from the atmosphere they filter out through the exosphere or outer space. So now what you have to understand is the planet Earth, just like when you catch a cold, your body heats up to kill the cold. Planet Earth is heating up to kill the cancerous humanoid entities that it has on here called the Europeans. Now what's happening is the sun is actually going through right now what they call solar emissions or a solar flare period, where the sun is actually emitting photonic particles at the hottest degree that is ever emitted in recorded history. And what this is doing is this is actually causing the molecules and atoms, aka all physical objects on this planet Earth, to become more widely spread apart and more and less dense. So now this is actually restructuring the atomic structure of all things on planet Earth. Time is moving faster, radiocarbon tangible items are decaying faster. Scientists are no longer able to tell how old things are that they find because they're decaying at a faster rate due to the temperature of the sun. And also the physical molecular structure of black people, which is carbon 12, because that's where you get the 666 analogy from. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. This carbon 12 is being reconformed to carbon 7, which is just 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 1 neutron. Now this is the physical manifestation of the chakra system, because you have 6 male counterparts in your chakras, you have 6 female counterparts in your chakras, and you have the 1 neutral chakra, which is the crown chakra. So the body is actually being realigned to fit your soul in a more expressatory state. So at this point in time, just like last time y'all see me on Baba TV, I was breaking down the alkaline diet, and you got to drink water for electrons and eat food for photons. This is the time period in which we need to be doing that the most, because the planet Earth is going through what you call an atmospheric cleanse. All beings on the planet Earth are being recomposed anatomically, whether you like it or not, and you need to get with the shift in order to be in transition with nature. Because what's going to happen is the frequency that is needed to live on this planet Earth is being raised. You have to be less dense to live here now. Just like when you're in the ocean, you have to be more dense and bigger to live deeper and deeper and deeper in the water, or you're going to get crushed by the pressure. Now when we're dealing with living outside of water in the atmosphere, you have to be lighter now. And you have to help your body make this transition by keeping it electronically energized. So we're dealing with electronics. Electronics is just the physical study of man's manipulation on electrons. So when we're dealing with electronics, this is being able to control the direction, speed, etc. of electrons in the atom. So you have to deal with the electronics of your body. You have to start eating things and start psychologically preparing yourself to help your body make this change. So you are a walking radio as a melanated being, and you have to understand what time it is for you. We're not talking about birds. We're not talking about fish. We're talking about you as a black person is living in what we call the last days. Or the end of the world. When we talk about the end of the world, we talk about the end of the Europeans' world. The reason they call it the end of the world is because, remember, when Christopher Columbus first came over here, they deemed it the New World, because in 1492 was the first time Europeans had ever left Europe. So technically the world was new to them. And they knew that in this time, astrologically, they would not be able to live here anymore. So they deemed it the end of the world. But really it's just the end of their world. This is the beginning of black people's reign once again on the planet Earth. And you're not going to be able to take your reign back if you don't prepare yourself subatomically for this shift. Your ass gonna get sun cancer just like that European, and you gonna suffer the fate of that motherfucking European. This is why in the Bible they say when God comes back for his chosen children, those who follow the devil will burn in hell. God is just the sun. Jesus is just allegorical to the sun, and the chosen people of the sun is black people, because melanin is condensed sunlight and matter is just condensed energy. And the devil is the European. And those who follow the ideology and the dietary systems of the European will suffer the fate of the European, which is burning, just the cancerous effect that you get from the temperature of the sun, which Europeans cannot escape. Like Seti always said, they got the curse that cannot be reversed. You inherit the curse by making your melanin toxic, by diluting yourself through drugs, alcohol, and certain foods. So with that being said, we got to understand right now, we are in the biblical times, as people like to say. We are in the last days, as people like to say. But they need to be able to relate it in its proper context. Okay? Ain't no goddamn Jesus coming out that goddamn sky. Ain't no goddamn Nuwapians coming out that goddamn sky. Ain't no Hebrews coming out that sky. Only thing coming out that sky is solar flare emissions that's going to change you subatomically. And this is the information we need to be getting. Well, we don't need to keep talking about what the fuck happened yesterday.
Hey guys, so in honor of all the solar flares we've been dealing with lately, I want to talk about my experiences with the sun people. So if you don't know, I'm Vanessa, I'm a psychic medium, and I see people's past lives. And in a few select people's past lives, I've seen these lives where they were actually beings that lived inside of a star. Oftentimes it looks like this one, of the few, very few people I've seen it. And these star beings I feel like they have bodies mostly made of energy. They look kind of oblong, but they have constantly changing outsides. And I feel like my perception of time when I view them is different. I feel like their perception of time is way faster, if that makes sense. And their atmosphere feels kind of, I've been inside and trying to mentally see and feel what the environment's like. It feels like a liquid environment. It seems like the way everything's moving, it kind of seems liquid, but not quite as dense. It's like I keep going back and forth between whether I think it's an air climate inside or liquid climate, but it's kind of both, if that makes sense. And so in the last time I got to meet one of these past lives, I got to kind of ask it some questions. So I asked how they got to this level of consciousness, and they explained that they reached a level of consciousness where they fully understood instant manifestation. And I got the feeling because they have structures in these buildings, but what's funny is I feel like time moves faster for them, because I'd see them create a structure and then I'd see it go away, and then I'd see other things pop up and go. And so they're on a spiritual level where they've reached a level where they can control the laws of the universe, their own energy, their own manifestation, where they've gotten to a level where they're at instant manifestation. So they also seem like they're all individual members, but they seem part of a group consciousness that reflects the consciousness of the star that they're in, which I find very interesting because our planet Gaia is one consciousness, it's one being, but this particular star was made of a group consciousness of all these different little beings inside. And lastly, what I find most interesting is how they live their lives. These beings want for nothing because they can instantly manifest anything. They don't eat, they absorb the energy of their star, and I tuned into how they feel, and it is the most wonderful, content, connected. Honestly, I feel like this might be one of the lives that is closest to just being back with Source.
The return of the Sun People.
All of our problems as melanated people will be solved when we go to the sun. If you're sad, the sun will make you happy. If you sick, the sun will heal you. If your hair can't grow, the sun will heal you. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. My ancestors is slaves. I'm a direct descendant of a slave. My grannies, great grannies been living 100 and something years old. 120. They don't get that old no more. But you wanna know why? Because it don't matter what they eat. They could have been eating pork. They could have been eating whatever they've been eating. They could have eaten unhealthy. But you know what they gonna do? They gonna go outside to pick that cotton and work in the field and sweat all day in the sun.
Okay, I'm gonna show you guys something real quick. So my eyes are blue, right? Yeah. All right, so watch what happens when I spend some time in the sun. I'm gonna cover this eye for you guys. But just a couple more seconds. That should be about good. We're going to come back inside. I'm going to keep that eye closed. And my eyes turn brown in the sunlight.